What's up, guys? It's Mimi, the ALE Prince, here to give you my review of Spider-Man Homecoming. Yes, after Sony screwed up with Spider-Man 3, they decided to reboot the franchise, gave us the Amazing Spider-Man, which was working out until the Amazing Spider-Man 2 happened, which is by far the worst Spider-Man movie you could ever give us. And at that point, they were just giving up on it. And at this point, they're just like, you know what, fuck it, let's just give it to Marvel Cinematic Universe. Um, and that's when I started saying to myself, yeah, it was good for the better because Sony really does suck ass at this shit. Cause even though they don't have the full rights to Spider-Man, they did the best they could and actually gave us a pretty damn good movie, which is like rare to say, like from Sony. Like, they have some hits and misses, like the Jump Street series. Jumanji was awesome, and then of course there's Spider-Man: Homecoming. Of course, it was weird because it was for the first time we see two companies working together, and it definitely does take dock off some points just on the fact that like there's a lot of times where I felt that freaking that Sony tried its hardest to make this movie fail because they were in charge of like advertisements and stuff like that, and the advertisements were shit. They first of all, the poster looked like garbage, and then we had freaking Sony spoiling a lot of parts in their trailer, which is a trendy thing to do with Sony trailers, because for some stupid ass reason Sony likes to screw up. Like they love to fail. Like it's like built by a bunch of fucking monkeys sometimes. Like I swear to God, what's wrong with them? Freaking Sony sometimes. But anyways, let all that aside, and you actually have a kick-ass movie, one of the best Spider-Man movies out there. Not my personal favorite. I still think Spider-Man 2 is a classic for me. But I understand those people will say that Spider-Man Homecoming is the better movie. Here's the thing. I'll agree that Tom Holland is the absolute best Spider-Man we have ever gotten. Better than any cartoons, better than any of the live-action Spider-Man we've had. This is the best Spider-Man incarnation ever. And then with that said, basically the movie starts with the big battle in the Avengers after they beat her, after that big battle ended at the very first Avengers. They had people cleaning up. Michael Keaton and a couple of his friends were working there, and eventually they lost their jobs because they had now Stark running the place, and basically now Stark people are in charge of like cleaning all this mess, and that left Vulture and his buddies pissed off. So Michael Keaton basically said, the world's changing, boys, so it's time to we change ourselves. So they steal some of the tech that they got, and they've been making weapons for thieves and criminals to start stealing stuff, which actually makes sense, and it actually explains how we have this good variety of Spider-Man villains. So that's a big bonus, I gotta say. So anyways, we fast forward 8 years later. So they accidentally put 8 years later. So this movie's like kind of like starting in a rough part, but basically Spider-Man broke the timeline. Now a lot of people avoid this mistake just because it really didn't matter, but like, how do you fuck that up? Like, see, Sony is just trying hard to like make sure their franchises felt like this. Sony, just give up and sell your full variety of things to Disney or somebody who is actually has a fucking brain. Like, I don't know what is it with Sony fucking shit up on purpose, but I don't know. Then we have the Marvel Studios logo, which it was awesome to see with the Spider-Man theme. So that was awesome. We show clips of Captain America Civil War, but throughout the fight, apparently Peter Parker had a camera on the whole time. And it was awesome. Like, it was just like him just being him. Like, he's like, oh my god, I'm a superhero. Like, this is the first time a superhero is happy, you know, and like, and he's excited to be a superhero. So he's like, yes, I should be an Avenger and stuff. And then at the end, Tony with a black eye said, like, listen, next time we'll call you if we ever need you for anything. Then we fast forward to the present day, and we just get typical Peter Parker and high school with all his friends and stuff. He's basically just himself. They got a kid named Ned instead of Harry Osborn, but yeah, they got Ned, who I guess in the comics he's supposed to turn into one of Hobgoblin's friends or something. But I'm pretty sure that's not gonna happen. But yeah, Ned and Peter, this interaction really was fun. I like what they did with the kids. You know, a lot of people say that, oh, it's too much diversity, and I agree to an extent that, like, yeah, we always get too much diversity and stuff, but it actually makes sense because this movie takes place in the year it came out, 2017, and we live in a society where now we have high school kids from all over the world, like from they're just like, not everybody lives in America. Like, they actually expand their rights, so it actually makes sense why we had certain characters be a certain race. So it makes sense. So I really at first I was just like, okay, they're just like doing this just to fuck with us, but it actually worked to an extent. Flash Thompson, Tony Revolori. I like what they did with him. I actually like that they didn't make him the stereotypical Flash, that he's just like a big dude fucking up Peter Parker every week. He's just a spoiled kid who's an asshole. But that's basically what high school is. And coming from a kid who just graduated high school, this is relatable. Like, all the kids are acting similar. So basically, Peter and Ed are trying to blend in at this party, but then Peter tried everything to impress everybody, so he dresses up like he puts on the Spider-Man gear, but that's when he catches the Vulture and his crew selling weapons. Like, they had the Thinker and Shocker there. We had Donald Glover, who actually is not Miles Morales. He's actually the Prowler. In the comics, he's basically Miles Morales' uncle. So that was cool because people said that Donald Glover was gonna be Miles Morales, and I was actually thinking that, like, yeah, this is gonna be a great Miles Morales. But then I thought about it. Donald Glover is kind of old to be playing a young teenager, so it's good that they saved him for maybe a future movie to come. I don't know how Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is gonna connect with this, but I'm really digging what they've done with this. So I'm cool with this. Overall, the characters are really cool. Let's talk about the female characters in this movie. Marissa Tomei as May Parker, great. Little exaggerated with the whole May being hot and stuff. Like, she is, but they exaggerated with this. Liz was a good love interest, especially with the whole connection to the Vulture. I know a lot of people are tired of the Spider-Man villains being connected to somebody that Peter knows, but I really never had an issue with that. Really, I never did. If we had that issue all the time, then we would not get a Killmonger in this world. So she was doing her job. So, and she wasn't in the movie that much. So there's that. And Zendaya, who played Michelle, aka MJ, I could see her and Peter having a relationship in the future movies. They kind of tease it, kind of don't tease it, like throughout the movies, and they just looks at Peter like kind of upset. She hides her feelings. She was alright. I didn't really hate her. A lot of people did not like her, and I actually get it. If you don't like her, I get it. But yeah. So anyways, I talked about all the characters. Let's talk about actual Spider-Man. He was just great. I love one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie is him just like in the streets as Spider-Man, and basically just trying to do the good things. Like, I remember he catches guy barging into a car, but he's like, "That's my car, dumbass!" And like they're all fighting, they're all arguing. It was just great. This was basically Spider-Man trying his hardest to be the next Avenger. Eventually, when he stops those, tries to stop those criminals from selling those weapons, Tony Stark catches him, and Tony's not even in this movie that much. And the scenes that he's in, in the beginning, he is kind of like a douche, like the stereotypical douche that we all know from Iron Man. But yeah, he was there for a while. It's kind of weird seeing him on vacation, considering like he should be like on a big mission since he's like technically like a big deal now that he signed the Sokovia Accords. But yeah, it really does show that the timeline really was fucked up. So there was, let's see, there's that. Happy Hogan, they kept saying to call Happy Hogan every time he needs an emergency, but he keeps ignoring him because he's like, yeah, I'm busy because we're moving the Avengers Initiative to the next downtown or south or something. I forgot exactly what they said, but yeah. And there's a theory going on that they actually sold the building to the Fantastic Four. At first, I was like, they don't have the rights to the Fantastic Four, but now that they own Fox, it could be a possibility, and I could be actually pretty excited for that. That would be a perfect way to bring in the Fantastic Four if that's true. But yeah. So anyways, Peter just trying his best to stop these people from selling these weapons, and that's when I get Ned like, why are you doing this? Like, why don't you, like, are you tired of being in high school? He's like, no, it's not that I'm tired. It's just like, I want to be an Avenger. He prefers being an Avenger than being a high school kid. And it plays off in the movie later on when he's, like, doing all these things, but he's always busy. And, he doesn't get, like, a perfect life because all he's trying to do is be the perfect Spider-Man and stuff like that. Like, and their trip to Washington, that was a great scene. And that leads me to another little nitpick. Peter has a suit where, I mean, I know that they take the chip off and all that stuff, but all of a sudden his suit just upgrades and he can do different things with his web shooters, which actually does add to his story. But kind of wish he did that on his own instead. Like this, like he's basically has this Iron Man suit, but without calling it that. Like they tried too much. They basically gave him his own Jarvis, which was I forgot her name. It was Karen or something. Yeah, it was Karen. Yeah, it was cool to see him like talking to her and having interactions with her, but I don't know, I just wasn't digging it because it really does feel like an Iron Man movie. So, and I no problem to that. It's just like, I want to see something. I want to see like Peter doing things like on his own, and that's kind of like another big issue. Like I want to see Peter doing more things outside of just being the Avengers, and it does play off at the end. Because throughout the movie we have a lot of references to the Avengers. Like they play FM Kill with Captain America, Iron Man, Thor. Flash talks about, I have a date with Black Widow. Like, Peter has a relationship with Spider-Man. Like, basically, little things like that. Oh, and how could I forget, of course, Captain America. Like, on those, like, videos on the TV. Like, yeah, this is the coach. You're in detention. Like, all this stuff. So, it was just great. So all of this was just like really cool, but at the end of the day, like they tried so hard to like push that they're part of the MCU, and that's another thing that I've always had an issue with all these movies, that they try too much to connect them together, which does make sense just to be a big culmination at the end, but it just doesn't work. I seem to be like talking down this movie, but I'm not. This movie is actually pretty damn awesome, and I really enjoyed it. A guy I haven't talked about in a while, the interactions with Spider-Man and the Vulture were awesome. Particularly that ending scene where they go to homecoming, Peter and Liz, and he finds out that Michael Keaton is the dad, and he's like, "Oh, hold on, I want to have a conversation with your little date real quick, Liz. So just give me a second." And Liz like, "Yeah, don't scare him off," because throughout the car ride, he starts finding out that he's Spider-Man. Like after all these conversations, like you were in that elevator, but like you were lucky you weren't there because that would have been crazy. And luckily Spider-Man showed up at around the same time. And he's basically putting all the puzzles together, showing that he is Spider-Man. But when he has that conversation, I still remember that conversation that he had in the car with him. He pulls out a gun and stuff like, "Hey, listen, you saved Liz, so I'll give you this one. But if you ever step into my direction, I'll fucking kill you." Like, he didn't say I'll fucking kill you, but he basically said that. And it was dope ass. It was like funny and scary at the same time. You know what I'm saying? It was weird because Peter Parker throughout the movie, he's just like, "Oh shit." Now he could have listened, but he really wanted to stop the Vulture. And at this point, he wasn't really proving himself. He was just being Peter, just saying stuff. And then we have that one moment where the Vulture escapes and all this stuff falls on Peter and he's crying. And then he looks at himself in the water. There's like water dripping, and then he sees himself, and then like half of his face is Peter Parker, and then the other half is Spider-Man. And then you hear a flashback of like Tony telling him, "If you're nothing without the suit, you shouldn't have it," which is a big part of like this story, which led to that epic scene of him just pushing everything and just throwing it. A moment I've been dying to see in any of these movies, so it was great that we finally see it for once. And yeah, basically the Vulture's trying to take all the weapons from that Jon Favreau, Happy Hogan was taking to the next New Avengers place. But so yeah, basically he's trying to steal those weapons, and now he's set for a good fortune in time. So it was just great because everybody in this story in a way feels important. Even like the least important characters, they all connect. We have like the silly teachers and stuff like that, but really, I mean, what do you expect? This is basically just a high school movie, and that's what makes this movie so great. This is a great high school Peter Parker, because it's something we've always wanted. We kind of got it in The Amazing Spider-Man, but then the next movie he graduates. Peter graduates from Tobey Maguire graduates in the first Spider-Man movie, and then he heads off to college. So it was finally cool that we finally got a high school Peter Parker, and he really got a good connection of Peter and Spider-Man together. So it was great. And then at the end, where he saves the Vulture's life, he webs him and waits for the cops to take him in. So Liz has to leave now, and he's apologizing, and Liz is like, "Yeah, I hope whatever happens with you, Peter, I hope you just figure out your life." And it does show like that Peter is like, it's hard to be Spider-Man and a high school kid. And then that's when we get Happy Hogan taking in Robert Downey Jr. He takes him to Robert Downey Jr. like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm kind of glad that I took your suit, because now that gave you the motivation to be to be a good hero. And now it's time for your dream. You're finally gonna be the next Avenger. It's time for people to welcome Spider-Man to be the next Avengers." Then we show the Iron Man suit. I like what they did with the suit. They didn't completely make it exactly like the comics, with like all those like big tentacles on his side. It had black, red, and yellow. So that was great. I really like that suit, and I can't wait to see it in Infinity War. So yeah, that was awesome. And Peter's like, "You know what? I'd rather just be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man," because if he stays with the Avengers, he's basically saying goodbye to the rest of his life. Say goodbye to May, say goodbye to Ned, say goodbye to everybody he met in high school. So it was a great scene, and it was just really powerful. And as he leaves, Tony and Hogan talk to each other, and then Pepper Potts comes back finally in the universe and saying like, "Yeah, he just surprised the heck out of us. He decided to take off," and "Oh, great, there's so many reporters there, like what am I supposed to do now with them? What am I supposed to say?" And then Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark's like, "You still got that ring?" "Yeah, I've been holding it since 2008, which is basically a reference to the first Iron Man. And yeah, basically Pepper and Starks get married, and as Spider-Man gets his life back, he also gets his suit back. He puts it on. Aunt May turns around and says, "What the?" And then the credits roll. And it was just a fun high school movie. I really had a blast with this movie. Not the perfect Spider-Man movie. We never really even had a perfect Spider-Man movie, to say the least. But this is definitely one of the better ones. So I can't wait for its sequels. I actually am curious to see what they do with their sequels. Um, they tease that Scorpion might be the next villain at the end credits, like Vulture, like not revealing who Spider-Man's identity is, but they might tease Scorpion. I'm cool with Scorpion. I actually prefer him as a side villain, like the Shocker and the Thinker were in this movie. I mind, but as far as like who I want to see guys like Craven and Mysterio, and like yeah, that's just like great. Then the final end credit scene was probably the perfect end credit scene of Captain America's like, yeah, you gotta learn about patience. Like sometimes you sit there disappointed and you wonder why was I there for so long. It was a great end credit scene and a funny one to say the least. So I really enjoyed this movie. It's a ton of fun. Again, it has its problems, but it's one of the better MCU movies. I have a blast with this movie. Almost everything about this movie is great. I'll just say that. I'll just stop there. It's A movie, A minus, just because I do have a lot of problems with it. But anyway, I would recommend you guys to go watch it. Next up is the last one, Thor Ragnarok. I was gonna re-review Black Panther, but come on, everything that's been said about Black Panther is said in that video. So, anyways, it's me, ALE Double X. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until then, I'm out.